The lights were blinding. The crowd was already on its feet before anyone said a word. You could feel it in the air, that electric tension that only comes when something is about to explode. Fans are shocked, whispers rippling through the audience like wildfire, because tonight was not just another reunion, not just another performance, not just another appearance. Tonight was the night a secret, buried for decades, was about to claw its way into the spotlight. No one expected this. Rasheeda stood center stage, microphone trembling slightly in her hand, her smile frozen in place like it was fighting to survive. From a distance, she looked composed, unbreakable, the same woman fans had watched endure rumors, betrayal, and public humiliation. But up close, emotions ran high. Her eyes darted toward the wings of the stage, as if she already knew what was coming. As if her spirit had sensed the storm before the thunder ever cracked. Then the host dropped the bomb. Tonight, the voice boomed, dripping with suspense, someone has come forward with information that could change everything you think you know about Kirk Frost and his family. The audience gasped. Phones shot into the air. Social media exploded in real time. Backstage, a young woman stood waiting. Her hands were shaking. Her eyes were glossy, but her posture was firm. She wasn't there for clout. She wasn't there for fame. She was there for answers, and maybe revenge. For years, she had lived in the shadows of a name she was never allowed to claim. Tonight, that silence was over. Kirk Frost shifted uncomfortably in his seat. Fans noticed immediately. The confident grin he usually wore was gone, replaced with a tight jaw and eyes that refused to meet anyone else's. When the words, "secret daughter," echoed through the venue, the blood drained from his face. The family was left divided before a single accusation was even spoken out loud. Rasheeda turned sharply toward him. "What does that mean?" she demanded, her voice cracking just enough for everyone to hear. "What secret?" Before Kirk could answer, the stage doors opened. Gasps turned into screams. A young woman walked out slowly, every step heavy with years of pain, confusion, and unanswered questions. She stopped inches away from Rasheeda, locking eyes with the woman she'd only known through television screens and tabloid headlines. The silence was unbearable. "This," the host said softly, "is the daughter Kirk Frost never told you about." Fans are shocked. Emotions ran high. And as Rasheeda's face shifted from confusion, to realization, to pure rage, one thing became painfully clear. This wasn't just a reveal. This was a reckoning. The silence after her footsteps hit the stage was louder than any scream. Rasheeda felt it in her chest like her heart had stopped beating for a split second. The young woman stood there, eyes glossy, jaw set, refusing to look away. Kirk froze completely. Fans are shocked because for once there was no smooth talk, no nervous laugh, no excuse ready to fly out of his mouth. The truth was standing right in front of him, breathing, staring, waiting. Rasheeda finally spoke, her voice low but shaking. "What is this, Kirk? Who is she? Say it, Kirk, say it." The crowd leaned forward, emotions ran high, and the host took a cautious step back, knowing this moment was bigger than any planned segment. The young woman swallowed hard, then spoke into the mic, her voice trembling but strong. "My name is Amara Frost and I'm your husband's daughter." The crowd erupted, screaming, shouting, some chanting Rasheeda's name, others booing. Kirk fans are shocked, doesn't even begin to cover it. Rasheeda laughed once, sharp and bitter, like it hurt coming out of her throat. "You think this is funny?" she snapped, looking straight at Kirk. "Because I don't." Kirk finally stood up, his chair scraping loudly against the floor. "Hold on," he said, raising his hands. "This ain't what it looked like." Rasheeda spun on him, eyes blazing. "Don't you dare say that to me. Not tonight, not on this stage, not after everything." The family was left divided already. Cameras zoomed in, catching every twitch, every tear. Amara took a deep breath. "I didn't want this," she said softly. "I tried to reach out privately, but he ignored me. My whole life I was told to stay quiet, to stay hidden." Rasheeda's face shifted, confusion fighting with rage. "Hidden for who? Hidden from who?" Kirk answered, barely above a whisper. "From you." Rasheeda gasped, stepping back like she'd been slapped from behind. "You hid a child from me, Kirk. You watched me cry, you watched me defend you, you let me look stupid." Kirk's voice cracked. "I was scared, okay? I didn't want to lose my family." Amara laughed bitterly. "You already lost me years ago." Fans are shocked as murmurs filled the room, some shouting, "Tell it," others yelling at Kirk. The host tried to regain control. "Let's slow down." Rasheeda wiped her face, then walked toward Amara, studying her up close. "How old are you?" Amara hesitated, then said 22. Rasheeda's knees nearly buckled. 22, she repeated. "That means..." Kirk's head dropped. Rasheeda's voice rose. "That means you cheated on me again while I was at home defending you, while I was pregnant, while I was praying for this marriage." The crowd gasped again, emotions ran high. Kirk reached for her arm. Rasheeda pulled away. "Don't touch me," she screamed, her voice echoing through the venue. Amara's eyes filled with tears. "I didn't ask to be born into this," she said. "I just wanted to know my father and why he chose everyone else over me." Rasheeda turned to her, pain softening just slightly. Seriously, you think I knew about you? She asked quietly. You think I would have accepted lies like this? Amara shook her head. No, but you got him. I didn't. The family was left divided as Kirk's sons stood frozen off to the side, unsure whether to step in or step away. One of them shouted, Dad, is this true? Kirk looked at his son, then back at Amara, then back at Rasheeda, and finally nodded slowly. Yes, it's true. Fans are shocked. Phones lit up, social media exploding in real time. Kirk continued, I made mistakes. I tried to fix them. Rasheeda cut him off. You don't fix lies by stacking more lies on top. She turned back to Amara. Who's your mother? Amara hesitated again, then said her name, and the crowd gasped, recognizing it. A former friend of Rasheeda's from years back. Whispers filled the air. Betrayal layered on betrayal. Rasheeda closed her eyes, fighting tears that refused to stop. So you slept with my friend, she whispered. Kirk tried to speak, but no sound came out. Amara added, she begged him to tell you. He never did. He paid her to disappear. Rasheeda laughed again, hollow. This is sick. This is actually sick. The host asked Amara, why? Come forward now. Amara looked straight into the camera. Because I'm tired of watching him pretend to be a family man while I explain to my child why she doesn't know her grandfather. Fans are shocked as another gasp rolled through. She has a child, Rasheeda whispered. Amara nodded. Yes. Rasheeda looked at Kirk with pure fury. You're a grandfather, and I had to hear it like this live on stage. Kirk's face crumbled. I wanted to tell you, Rasheeda screamed. When was the right time? After another season, another scandal, another lie. The crowd roared. Emotions ran high. Security edged closer just in case. Amara wiped her tears. I didn't come to destroy your marriage, she said, but Rasheeda interrupted. It was destroyed long before you walked out here. Silence fell again, heavy, suffocating. Rasheeda turned to the audience. You see this, she said, pointing at Kirk. This is what loyalty gets you. This is what standing by a man gets you. Kirk tried again. Rasheeda, please, we can talk off stage. Rasheeda shook her head. No, you don't get privacy anymore. Not tonight. Not after hiding a secret like this. She turned to Amara, then back to Kirk, and said one sentence that changed everything. Get off this stage. Kirk froze. What? Rasheeda repeated louder. Get off this stage and don't follow me. Amara stood unsure. Rasheeda looked at her. Stay, she said calmly. This is your moment. Kirk's security guided him away as boos filled the venue. Fans are shocked watching Rasheeda and Amara left face to face. Rasheeda sighed deeply, her shoulders slumping. I'm angry, she admitted, but not at you. Amara nodded. I know, but this isn't over. Rasheeda looked into the camera, eyes blazing. No, it's just beginning. The crowd was still roaring when Rasheeda slowly turned back toward Amara. The distance between them felt heavier than the noise. Rasheeda took a breath, steadying herself. You didn't deserve this, she said quietly. Not this way, not like this. Amara nodded, wiping her face. But this is the only way he listens. Fans are shocked watching two women bound by the same man but divided by years of silence. Emotions ran high as the host cautiously stepped forward, asking Rasheeda, do you want to continue? Rasheeda didn't even look at him. She kept her eyes on Amara. How long have you known? Amara swallowed. My whole life. My mom told me when I was 10. Rasheeda closed her eyes again, pain washing over her. 10 years old and he still chose to lie. Amara's voice cracked. He promised her he'd leave you. He never did. The family was left divided again as murmurs grew louder, some fans yelling that Rasheeda deserved better, others blaming Amara unfairly. Rasheeda snapped toward the crowd. Don't you dare blame her. This is on him. She turned back to Amara. Did he ever show up? Birthdays, school, anything? Amara shook her head. No, just money through other people, always hiding. Rasheeda clenched her jaw, anger simmering beneath heartbreak. I defended him through everything, she whispered. Cheating, rumors, babies, lies, and I still believed him. Amara looked at her with genuine sympathy. I never hated you, she said. I just hated being invisible. Rasheeda nodded slowly. I know that feeling too. The host interrupted. Kirk is backstage requesting to come back out. Rasheeda laughed coldly. Absolutely not. He's had enough stage time. Fans are shocked when Amara suddenly spoke. Let him come out. Rasheeda looked at her, surprised. Amara continued. I didn't come this far to let him hide again. Murmurs erupted. Security hesitated. Rasheeda studied Amara, then nodded. Fine, bring him out, but don't let him speak unless I say so. Kirk reappeared cautiously, eyes red, voice already trembling. Rasheeda crossed her arms. Say one thing, she warned, and I walk. Kirk nodded silently. Amara faced him for the first time without fear. Why didn't you want me? Kirk's breath hitched. I was young, I was stupid. Amara cut him off. You were grown, you were married. Rasheeda added, pregnant. Kirk looked down, ashamed. I panicked. Amara laughed bitterly. You panicked for 22 years. Fans are shocked as tears rolled down Kirk's face. I thought money would fix it. Amara shook her head. You can't pay for presents, you can't buy a father. Rasheeda turned toward Kirk. Now it was her turn. Why her? Why my friend? Kirk whispered. It wasn't planned. Rasheeda snapped. It never is until it is. The family was left divided again as one of Kirk's sons stepped forward. Dad, you need to answer. He looked torn. Kirk looked at his son, ashamed. I failed all of you. Rasheeda scoffed. You failed the truth. Amara took a step closer to Kirk. I'm not here for apologies, she said. I want acknowledgement. I want my name. I want my child to know where she comes from. Kirk nodded quickly. I'll do whatever it takes. Rasheeda laughed again. There it is, suddenly generous now that that you're exposed. Fans are shocked as Rasheeda turned to Amara. If you want him in your life, that's your choice. I won't stop you, but I won't stand beside him while he pretends to be redeemed. Amara hesitated, then said, I don't want a relationship built on guilt. I want honesty. Kirk nodded, tears falling. I'll take whatever you give me. Amara sighed heavily, years of pain spilling out. You don't get to decide that tonight. Rasheeda placed a hand on Amara's shoulder, grounding her. This isn't something you fix on a stage. Kirk reached toward Amara. Rasheeda snapped back, don't touch her. The crowd erupted again. Emotions ran high. The host tried to wrap up, but Rasheeda raised a finger. Not yet. She turned to the audience. Let this be a lesson. Secrets don't stay buried, they rot families from the inside. Kirk whispered, Rasheeda, please talk to me later. Rasheeda looked at him with finality. There is no later, not like before. Amara looked between them, realizing the weight of her presence. I didn't want to be the reason. Rasheeda interrupted firmly, you're not the reason, you're the result. Silence fell heavy and raw. Rasheeda then addressed Amara directly. I don't know what our relationship looks like after tonight, but I won't deny your existence ever again. Amara's eyes filled with tears. Thank you. Rasheeda nodded, turning back to Kirk. This ends now, she said, stepping away. Amara followed, leaving Kirk alone center stage. Fans are shocked watching him stand there, exposed, stripped of excuses, as the lights dimmed and the crowd buzzed, knowing this story was far from over. Backstage, the air felt heavier than the stage lights ever did. Rasheeda walked fast, heels clicking sharp against the floor. Amara struggled to keep up, her heart racing, not from fear anymore but from adrenaline. Years of silence had been shattered in minutes. Fans are shocked even beyond the venue as phones buzzed non-stop, notifications pouring in. Rasheeda finally stopped in a quiet hallway, turning to face Amara, her voice softer now but still raw. You okay? Amara nodded, barely. I think so. Rasheeda sighed, rubbing her temples. I didn't plan for any of this. Amara replied, neither did I. They stood there in an awkward silence, two women connected by betrayal but separated by decades of pain. Emotions ran high when footsteps echoed behind them. Kirk's voice called, Rasheeda, please. She stiffened immediately. Told you not to follow me. Kirk stepped into view, eyes red, voice shaking. I need to explain. Rasheeda laughed bitterly. Explain what you haven't already explained by lying for 22 years. Amara crossed her arms, standing beside Rasheeda for the first time, not behind her. Kirk looked at Amara, guilt flooding his face. I never meant to hurt you. Amara snapped, you did hurt me every time you chose hiding over honesty. Rasheeda turned toward Kirk. You see this, she said, pointing between them. This is the damage of your fear. Kirk swallowed hard. I was trying to protect my family. Rasheeda cut him off. You were protecting yourself. The family was left divided. Even here, Kirk's sons hovered at a distance, unsure whose side to take. One whispered, Dad, we're getting destroyed online. Kirk winced as if the words physically hurt. Rasheeda scoffed, good, maybe now you know how it feels to be exposed. Amara took a breath, steadying herself. I didn't come here to fight, she said. I came for truth. Kirk nodded rapidly. I'll tell everything now, no more secrets. Rasheeda raised an eyebrow. Now you're ready. Kirk continued rambling. I met her mother during a rough time. We argued. You were busy. I felt lonely. Rasheeda exploded. Lonely? I was building a life with you while you were building excuses. Amara shook her head. Don't blame her, she said firmly. This is on you. Kirk's shoulders slumped. I know I messed up. Rasheeda stared at him coldly. Messed up is forgetting an anniversary. This is a lifetime of deception. Emotions ran high as producers approached, suggesting a private room. Rasheeda waved them off. No more closed doors, she said. Everything stays in the light. Amara felt a strange mix of empowerment and grief. She had dreamed of confronting him but never imagined doing it beside his wife. Rasheeda turned to Amara. What do you want from him right now? Amara paused, thinking deeply. Acknowledgement, she said finally. Not checks, not promises, just the truth said out loud. Kirk nodded. Okay, you're my daughter, Amara Frost, my firstborn child, and I failed you. Amara's lips trembled, tears spilling freely. Fans are shocked even backstage as crew members wiped their own eyes. Rasheeda watched closely, then spoke. And what about me? Kirk looked at her, voice cracking. I failed you too. Rasheeda exhaled sharply. That's the first honest thing you've said tonight. The family was left divided as Kirk's son finally stepped forward, addressing Amara. I didn't know about you, but you're still blood. Amara looked at him surprised, then nodded slightly. Thank you, Rasheeda observed silently, processing the shift happening in real time. Alliances forming, lines being redrawn. Kirk reached out again. This time Rasheeda didn't flinch, but she didn't take his hand either. This doesn't fix us, she said quietly. Kirk nodded. I know, but I want to try. Rasheeda looked him dead in the eye. Trying requires truth every day, not just when cameras are rolling. Amara added, and accountability even when it hurts. Kirk agreed. I'll do it. Rasheeda sighed deeply, exhaustion finally showing on her face. I need space, she said. I need time to decide what my future looks like without lies. Amara hesitated, then spoke. I don't want to replace you or disrupt. At her gently. You're not replacing anyone, you're claiming your place, and that's on him, not you. A moment of silence followed, heavy but different, not explosive, more reflective. Kirk whispered, can we at least talk later? Rasheeda shook her head. Not tonight. Tonight I choose my myself. She turned to Amara. You're welcome to stay with us off camera if you want. Amara's eyes widened, surprised. I don't want to impose. Rasheeda smiled sadly. This family already changed, might as well do it honestly. Kirk watched them walk away together, realization hitting that he was no longer the center of the story. Fans are shocked watching the power shift unfold, Rasheeda and Amara disappearing down the hallway side by side while Kirk stood alone, surrounded by the echoes of his own secrets, knowing the next chapter would be even harder than the exposure that just shattered everything. The next morning, the fallout was impossible to escape. Rasheeda woke up to her phone vibrating, non-stop messages, missed calls, headlines screaming her name. Fans are shocked, plastered across every blog, every feed, every comment section. She sat up slowly, the weight of the night crashing back into her chest. Amara was already awake, sitting quietly by the window, staring out like she was afraid the world might disappear again if she blinked. Rasheeda cleared her throat. You didn't sleep much? Amara shook her head. No, too much noise in my head. Rasheeda nodded. I get that the family was left divided, not just emotionally but physically. Phones buzzing from Kirk's side of the family, friends choosing sides, fans dissecting every frame of the confrontation. Emotions ran high even in silence. Amara finally spoke. Do you regret letting me stay? Rasheeda looked at her surprised, then shook her head. No, I regret the lies, not you. Amara exhaled, relieved. Thank you. Rasheeda stood, stretching her back, aching like she'd aged years overnight. I don't know what happens next, she admitted, but I know I won't be silent anymore. Amara smiled faintly. Neither will I. Later that day, Kirk requested a family meeting. No cameras, no producers, just blood and broken trust. Rasheeda hesitated, then agreed, but on her terms. They met in a neutral space, tension thick. Kirk arrived first, eyes hollow when Rasheeda and Amara entered together. His breath caught. Fans are shocked even without cameras because the power shift was undeniable. Rasheeda took a seat beside Amara, not across from her. Kirk swallowed. I appreciate you coming. Rasheeda cut in. Don't mistake presence for forgiveness. Say what you need to say. Kirk nodded nervously. I've spoken to lawyers, accountants, therapists. Everyone wants to control the narrative. Rasheeda scoffed. Of course they do. Amara interjected. I don't care about the narrative, I care about accountability. Kirk nodded again. I want to put my name on her birth certificate publicly. Rasheeda raised an eyebrow. You should have done that decades ago. Kirk winced. I know, but I'm doing it now. Amara studied him carefully. Actions matter more than words, she said. Kirk nodded again, repeating himself like a broken man. I know. Rasheeda leaned forward, voice steady but sharp. If you're serious, then there's no more secrets, no more side conversations, no more protecting your image over people. Kirk agreed. I'll take the backlash. Rasheeda laughed coldly. You already are. The family was left divided again when Kirk's sons arrived one by one, unsure how to act. Amara stood slightly unsure, but Rasheeda stayed seated, grounding her presence. One son finally spoke. This is a lot. Amara nodded. I didn't want this either, Rasheeda added, but here we are. Emotions ran high as Kirk tried to explain his fear, his shame, his cowardice. Rasheeda listened quietly, for once not interrupting, not yelling, just absorbing the truth. Amara watched her, realizing this woman had been strong long before last night. Kirk finished speaking, voice breaking. I'm sorry, doesn't cover it. Rasheeda finally responded. You're right, it doesn't, but it's a start. Amara looked surprised. Rasheeda continued. I'm not promising reconciliation, I'm promising honesty, and that's something you've never had from me because I was always defending you. Kirk nodded, tears falling. I don't deserve that grace. Amara spoke softly. Neither of us deserved your silence. The room fell quiet, something shifting, something painful but necessary. Fans are shocked as news leaked that Rasheeda cancelled upcoming appearances, choosing privacy over damage control. She told producers, this isn't entertainment anymore, this is real life. Amara began receiving messages from people like her hidden children thanking her for speaking up, the weight of representation settling on her shoulders. Rasheeda watched proudly, quietly. Kirk felt the loss acutely, realizing control had slipped through his fingers. He wasn't leading anymore, he was reacting. Days passed, tension simmered. Rasheeda and Kirk barely spoke except through logistics. Amara bonded slowly with her siblings, cautious but hopeful. Emotions ran high but different now, less explosive, more raw. One night Rasheeda sat alone, scrolling comments, some cruel, some supportive. Fans are shocked. She whispered to herself at how quickly the world turns. Amara joined her, sitting quietly. Do you hate him? Rasheeda thought for a long moment, then said, I hate what he did. I hate the lies. I don't hate myself anymore for believing him. Amara smiled softly. That matters. Rasheeda nodded. It does. She looked at Amara. You changed things by telling the truth even if it hurt. Amara replied, so did you, by standing up for it. The family was left divided but also rebuilding piece by piece. Nothing neat, nothing scripted, just real and messy and unfinished. Rasheeda knew the hardest decisions were still ahead, but for the first time in years she wasn't afraid of the truth. She was walking straight into it, knowing the storm wasn't over, but she was finally standing in her own power, ready for whatever came next. Days turned into weeks and the tension never fully lifted, it just changed shape. Fans are shocked, watching every move dissected online as Rasheeda stayed mostly silent, choosing distance over damage control. Kirk, on the other hand, went public: apology videos, interviews, statements. None of it landed the way he hoped because the truth was already louder than his words. Amara felt the pressure too. Strangers recognizing her, offering sympathy, others accusing her of ruining a family. Emotions ran high every time she opened her phone. Rasheeda noticed and finally said, "You don't owe anyone anything." Amara nodded, but the weight was heavy. "I didn't expect to become a symbol," Rasheeda replied. "Truth always makes someone uncomfortable. That's how you know it matters." The family was left divided further. When Kirk announced he wanted Amara and her child included in public family events, Rasheeda shut it down immediately. "Not until trust is rebuilt," she said firmly. Kirk bristled but didn't argue. He was learning silence the hard way. Amara felt torn, wanting inclusion but not at the cost of more chaos. One afternoon, Kirk showed up unannounced. Rasheeda opened the door, eyes narrowing. "I told you, boundaries." Kirk swallowed. "I just wanted to see my granddaughter." Rasheeda crossed her arms. "You don't get to pop in like nothing happened." Amara stepped forward, calm but firm. "This is exactly what I meant about accountability." Kirk nodded, defeated. "You're right, I'll wait." Rasheeda watched him leave, feeling something close to peace but also sadness, mourning the version of her life that never really existed. Fans are shocked when rumors surfaced that Rasheeda was considering separation. Kirk tried to deny it but the distance spoke louder. Amara struggled with guilt, feeling like the catalyst. Rasheeda reassured her, "You didn't break this, you exposed it." Emotions ran high when Kirk's mother reached out, blaming Amara. Rasheeda shut it down instantly. "Do not put this on her," she said. "This was your son's choices." Lines were drawn clear, unmovable. Amara found strength in unexpected places: messages from women who had been hidden, children, wives who had been lied to, daughters who grew up in shadows. She realized her voice mattered. Rasheeda watched her grow, more confident, more grounded. One night Amara confessed, "I'm scared he'll disappoint me again." Rasheeda nodded. "He probably will at some point, but this time you'll see it clearly and decide what you accept." Kirk began therapy, publicly trying to show change, but Rasheeda remained cautious. "Change isn't performance," she reminded him privately, "it's consistency." The family was left divided, but healing began in small, awkward steps: shared dinners, careful conversations. Amara slowly bonded with her siblings, laughter mixed with grief for lost time. Rasheeda kept her distance, protecting her heart. Fans are shocked when Rasheeda finally posted a message, not an explanation, not an apology, just a line saying, "Truth hurts but lies destroy." Support poured in. Kirk realized control was gone, and maybe that was necessary. Amara stood on a balcony one evening holding her child, whispering, "You'll never be hidden." Rasheeda watched from inside, knowing the story was still unfolding. Unresolved, complicated but honest for the first time, and as the sun set, both women understood this wasn't the end of the drama, it was the beginning of a new reality, one where silence no longer ruled and every choice moving forward would be made in the open, whether it hurt or healed or both. The pressure reached its peak the night Kirk finally asked for one last conversation, all of them together. No cameras, no producers, no audience, just the people his choices had fractured. Rasheeda hesitated longer than before, standing in the doorway, arms crossed, eyes tired but steady. Amara stood beside her, silent but present, a reminder that the truth doesn't disappear when it gets uncomfortable. Kirk cleared his throat. "Thank you for coming." Rasheeda replied, "Don't confuse this with reconciliation. Say what you need to say." Kirk nodded, swallowing hard. "I'm filing the paperwork tomorrow." Amara frost, "Legally, publicly, no conditions, no excuses." Amara's breath caught, emotions ran high as she nodded slowly. "Thank you." Rasheeda watched closely, then added, "And what about the rest?" Kirk sighed, "I'm stepping back from public appearances for a while. I need to do the work without applause." Rasheeda raised an eyebrow, surprised, but said nothing. Kirk continued, "I won't pressure anyone to forgive me. I'll earn whatever place I'm allowed." Amara looked down at her hands, then back up. "I don't need perfection," she said. "I need consistency." Kirk nodded. "I know." Rasheeda finally spoke, her voice calm but firm. "Consistency also means respecting boundaries." Kirk agreed immediately. "I will." The family was left divided still, but something shifted. The tension softened just enough to breathe. Kirk's sons spoke one by one, acknowledging the shock, the anger, the confusion. Amara listened patiently, answering questions without defensiveness. Rasheeda observed quietly, recognizing strength where she once expected resentment. Emotions ran high, but there was no yelling, no theatrics, just honesty, raw and exhausting. When the meeting ended, Kirk stood uncertainly. Rasheeda paused, then said, "We're separating for now." Kirk nodded, accepting the reality. "I understand." Amara watched the exchange, feeling the weight of consequences settle in silence. Weeks later, fans are shocked when Rasheeda finally returned to the stage, not for drama but for clarity. She addressed the crowd with her head high. "Truth isn't entertainment," she said, "but I won't hide from it." She acknowledged pain, growth and boundaries without naming names. Amara watched from the wings, holding her child, tears streaming, not from sadness but release. Kirk watched from home, understanding some doors close permanently and some open only after lost time passed. Healing didn't arrive neatly Neatly, but it arrived honestly. Rasheeda rebuilt herself outside the shadow of loyalty that cost her too much. Amara built a future where her child would never question belonging. Kirk learned humility the hard way. The family was left divided but no longer dishonest, and fans are shocked not by scandal anymore but by the quiet strength that followed the storm. The story didn't end with forgiveness or reunion, it ended with truth, and sometimes that's the most dramatic ending of all. Time moved differently after that quiet ending, the kind of slow, heavy time that forces people to sit with themselves. Rasheeda felt it in the mornings when the house was too quiet and in the evenings when she no longer waited for explanations that would never come. Amara felt it too, learning how to exist in a family space that was still rearranging itself around truth. Fans are shocked as interest didn't fade but shifted from scandal to speculation. People wanted to know what healing looked like when cameras weren't rolling. Emotions ran high behind closed doors where there were no scripts, only choices. Rasheeda focused on her business, throwing herself into work not to escape but to rebuild on her own terms. Amara began therapy, unpacking years of being told she was a secret, a mistake, a risk. The family was left divided but not frozen. It was moving slowly, awkwardly, sometimes painfully towards something new. Kirk stayed distant, honoring boundaries for once, learning what it meant to show up without demanding forgiveness. He sent messages without expectations, apologies without conditions. Some went unanswered, some were acknowledged with silence, and that silence taught him more than arguments ever had. Amara's siblings reached out individually, cautious conversations over coffee, texts late at night, sharing memories that didn't include her and making space for ones that would. Rasheeda watched it all from a careful distance, protective but not possessive. She had learned the difference. Fans are shocked when rumors of a reconciliation surfaced again. Rasheeda shut them down calmly, publicly, saying growth doesn't always mean staying, sometimes it means letting go. Amara stood beside her at a charity event weeks later, not introduced as anything sensational, just present, just real. Emotions ran high as people noticed the quiet solidarity between them, a bond not defined by Kirk but by shared truth. Backstage, Amara confessed, "I used to think being acknowledged would fix everything." Rasheeda smiled sadly. "It doesn't, it just gives you a starting point." Kirk watched from afar, respecting the distance, understanding finally that love doesn't come from control. The family was left divided but no longer broken beyond repair. It was fractured, yes, but honest, and honesty was the foundation none of them ever had. Fans are shocked when Amara declined a tell-all interview, choosing peace over exposure. Rasheeda supported the decision, proud of the strength it took to say no. Kirk sent a message that night, just 2 words, "I understand." Rasheeda read it and didn't respond, not out of anger but because not every moment needed closure. Time continued to stretch, reshape, soften the sharpest edges. Amara built routines, laughter with siblings, moments with her child that felt grounding. Rasheeda rediscovered herself outside of endurance, outside of defending a man who never protected her. The story kept living, evolving, not as spectacle but as reality, and though the drama that brought them together was loud, the lives they were building now were quieter, stronger, and finally their own. Months later, the echoes of that night still followed them, not as noise but as memory. Rasheeda felt it when she stepped onto stages again, stronger, steadier, no longer carrying someone else's guilt. Amara felt it when she watched her child laugh freely, knowing the truth of where she came from. Fans are shocked how quickly chaos can turn into clarity when lies stop leading the way. Emotions ran high in the early days but now they simmered, quieter, more controlled. The family was left divided but also redefined. Gatherings looked different, fewer people, more honesty, less pretending. Kirk remained on the outside of Rasheeda's world, respecting the distance, learning that accountability isn't proximity, it's patience. Amara allowed him limited access, structured boundaries, no promises, each visit measured not by words but by consistency. Rasheeda watched without interference, understanding this wasn't her role to manage anymore, and that realization brought peace she hadn't felt in years. One afternoon, Amara admitted something that surprised them both. "I don't need him to be perfect." Rasheeda smiled softly, "just present." Amara nodded. Exactly. Rasheeda reflected on how long she had accepted absence, disguised as effort, and felt grateful she no longer did. Fans are shocked when Rasheeda publicly celebrated independence, not bitterness, speaking about choosing herself without blame or spectacle. Amara stood beside her again, not as a headline, not as a secret, but as family on her own terms. Kirk watched quietly, learning that redemption doesn't come with applause, it comes with humility. The family was left divided but moving forward, each in their own lane, respecting the boundaries carved by truth. There were still hard days, awkward silences, unanswered questions, but there was no more pretending, and that made all the difference. Rasheeda closed one chapter without slamming the door. Amara opened another without fear, and Kirk learned too late but truly that secrets don't protect anyone, they only delay the reckoning. And when the dust finally settled, what remained wasn't scandal or shock but something far rarer, honesty and the quiet strength that comes after surviving the storm. And now it's your turn, because this story doesn't end when the lights go out, it lives in the questions you're asking right now. You just witnessed a secret unravel, a family fracture, and two women choose truth over silence. And if you felt that tension, if your heart raced, if you found yourself picking sides or questioning what you would do in Rasheeda's place, then you already know this wasn't just drama. This was a warning, a mirror, and a moment. Fans are shocked, but the real question is, are you surprised? Secrets don't disappear, they wait, and when they surface, they don't whisper, they explode. Emotions ran high on that stage, but they're still running high in the comments, and that's where your voice matters. Do you think Rasheeda was right to draw a hard line? Would you have handled Amara differently? Should Kirk ever be given another chance, or is some damage truly irreversible? The family was left divided, but families everywhere are watching and reflecting on their own truths, on their own silences, on the things they've been afraid to confront. And that's why you're here, because these stories hit deeper than headlines. They force you to ask what loyalty really means and how much truth costs, but also what it gives back. If you believe Rasheeda chose strength, if you believe Amara deserved to step into the light, if you believe secrets destroy more than honesty ever could, then don't stay silent. Let your voice be heard. Smash that like button so this story reaches more people who need to hear it. Hit subscribe so you don't miss the next chapter, because you already know the drama never really ends. And drop your thoughts in the comments, because your opinion, your perspective, your truth is part of this conversation. Do you stand with truth, or do you think some secrets should stay buried? Tell us what you think, and remember, the real power isn't in hiding, it's in finally speaking out.